back to Mind and Money. My name is Val Stratford, and I'm a financial planner.
And I'm Sherry, a financial coach. And today we are going to talk about impulse spending and how you can reframe it and reduce it with ADHD, because it tends to be something that really fucks up our finances. So let's dive into that today.
We're going to start by sharing ways that hyperfocus spending or impulse spending shows up in our lives, whether it be past or current. For me right now, there was, of course, for a couple years now, I think the plant obsession has been building on social media. I never had any urge to be a plant parent ever because I would typically kill them. And then I was like, well, that's a waste of money. I don't love this. And I'm killing something that someone else could probably keep alive. Then I discovered pothos plants. And now that is my current hyper focus spending. Of course, having different tools in place, which we're going to talk about later on in this episode, that help me to not have 300 pothos in my home, because I found something that I really like. It brings me joy. So there's that dopamine hit and I can keep it alive. So that's my current hyper-focus spending. In the past, it's typically been patterns like that where I've gotten into, whether it's a food, like coconut water right now is something that I really enjoy, a food, a drink, something within our house potentially. It could be a certain clothing piece, like blazers. I really love blazers and I still do love them and they're purposeful, but being mindful that that doesn't then become impulse spending that gets me into a negative situation. What about you, Sherry? What has been a hyper focus for you with spending, or how has impulse spending presented for you?
Also, quick side note, I bought a blazer a couple weeks ago because I thought I needed a blazer, but I don't need a blazer. I'm not a blazer person. So I should probably give it to you and see if you like it. Um, for me in the past, and I really noticed this when it comes to personal care products. So shampoo, skincare, I went down the rabbit hole of this MLM shampoo brand probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I thought I had to buy all of the things. And then they hit you with regular subscriptions where if you don't go in and tell them not to ship it, they ship it to you. And then they make it hard to return it, or you just feel shame around returning it. And the same with skincare. I'll start something and I'll oh, this is really nice. I like it. I have to get all of the things. And it's my brain thinks they're going to stop making the things tomorrow. So I have to get enough for the next 5 years. And shampoo specifically, I stopped buying it at least 2 years ago. And I still have some of these products that I'm working to get rid of. And then it irritates the shit out of me because I have them and I'm trying to get rid of them. And I have this new one I want to use. And then the old one's still there. And I'm not just going to throw it out because it's just not me. So being able to figure out when I'm going into these modes and having that, okay, I'm not going to purchase more for now. I found a new skincare line. And so that's my focus for now. And that I'm not going to buy more of this until this happens. So until these ones are empty, until I start these new ones, and just thinking understanding what I'm doing helps me to kind of pump the brakes a little bit when it comes to impulse spending or that hyper focus spending on something that is currently giving me a dopamine hit.
When we're looking at those hyper focus pieces, do you ever have it, Sherry, where you might not be purchasing those things, but you get a purchase in your mind and it's really hard to not think about it? So I might be on Marketplace looking for it or looking online, and it's not something I need. It's something that I want, but I really want it. And it becomes quite consuming at times. Realtor was a big one. When we were looking at potentially moving, Realtor was huge to go on and see what's in our area, what's coming up. And I had to limit myself to be to give myself the boundary of you can go on once a week for a certain amount of time and that's it. If not, it can be all consuming. And then that scarcity comes in of what if I miss the property that's the one? It wasn't meant to be. The universe will bring another one into my realm. All good. Do you ever have that when you're really hyper focused on a purchase?
100%. And I think Marketplace and social media, you click on one link for one thing you're interested in and it serves you up 100 more. And I've
Yep.
shared before, I purchased a Peloton at the end of last year. And when I go to our cottage, sometimes I'm like, oh, I miss it. Maybe I will like to get one for here. And it's just like, it's crazy because I'm not there for a huge amount of time, but just being able to see and understand what the algorithm does to really try and encourage us to spend, and the day and time that we live in, like being an ADHD or trying to like reel in your impulse spending, it's more challenging now than it ever has been before.
It's more challenging because it's the easiest it's ever been. Your credit card is pre-saved, the link is there, and Amazon introduced that button, I'm not sure how long ago, but it's the buy now. You don't just add it to your cart. You just swipe and it buys it now. So we wanted to talk about ways that Sherry and I both use the pause or add different strategies and habits into our daily living that help with that impulse purchasing or hyper focused purchasing. The first one that I really love, and I started this years ago just within my iPhone notes, was it's called wants. I also have a needs list that's way less cool, but it's like, oh, we need toilet paper or toothpaste. But my wants list is those things that come up that I may be totally hyper focused on, or something that I see someone else has and I'm like, oh, that's really great. I don't need it. I don't like, oh, I should open it up right now. I want to see what's on here that would be cool to bring up. Do you have a wants list, Sherry?
I don't, but I should start a wants list, because if you get somebody who, like, I'm not a big gifter, so I don't get a lot of gifts, but if you ever have somebody that asks you, like, having that is pretty cool. And for me, that
Yes.
Amazon Save for Later is a really effective tool, because
Yep.
when you go back to it, you're like, this was stupid. I don't want this. I don't need this. Like, let's delete it. And
Yes.
it helps create that pause. And I think maybe it was you that shared it or somebody else that shared it around having, because Amazon is a big one for so many people, having a like one day a week or one day every like pay period or once a month that you are able to hit buy on Amazon. So yes, that requires like
Um,
some self-control, which we don't always have, but being able
yep.
to have that, like, oh shit, it's Tuesday, I get to like buy something from Amazon, and you go look in your save for later and you're like, what was like last
Yes.
week me thinking? I don't need this shit. About what is on your wants list.
I have a wants list with quite a few things on there, but one of the things that popped up to me was a silk robe, and I put dash bougie. So probably satin, silk, whatever. I think I saw it in a movie and I was like, oh, that would be great. Love that. But I have two robes. I have a short robe and I actually have three robes right now. So this being on my wants list, it's because I'm also trying to live a minimal-ish lifestyle.
Yeah.
So yes, I could get this and have it tomorrow, 100%, but it's not something that I need. It's something more like maybe once a robe gives out, then, which I mean, I don't even know if that's going to be in this lifetime, but at that point, then going, okay, there is that robe that I wanted. I thought it was really great, but it's not something I need. Would it bring me joy and would there be a dopamine hit? Absolutely, 100%. But it goes on my wants list because then if a birthday comes around and someone goes, hey, what do you want? And in that moment, I typically am like, I have no idea. I have this wants list. I have a catio on there, right? I want my cats to be able to go outside. We have dog kennels that we can put them outside in. It works. It's just not a catio with like toys and such in it, but they still get the effect of being outside. So it's not a need, it's a want. That list has been huge in putting things on there that I'm like, oh, that's really great, but I don't need it. And it creates that pause between I want this and I can buy it, but I don't need to spend the money there. So
Yeah.
it gives that space. I've gone through my wants list many times and taken things off, whether they've come to fruition through life, through gifting. And I have bigger things on there in terms of like a property that I would like to have, right? I like a farm, those types of things. But those other pieces, when you go through, you either take them off, which feels really good, whether it's because you have received it or purchased it, or because it doesn't suit you anymore because you put it on there and then you're like, yeah, I really want that. Like I have hops. I wanted to grow hops for like 30 minutes of my life. And I can take that off because I'm like, I don't think I actually want to grow hops. Let- I don't know where that came from, but at some point in my life, I wanted to grow hops. So hop plants was something I wanted. I can take that off of there. So love my wants list. It's in your phone, super easy. When something comes to mind, or if you find yourself really focusing on it, put it on your wants list and then give that time and then see if it's something that you truly want. What about for you, Sherry? What do you use?
I more use my save for later on Amazon because I'm like Amazon makes it so easy to get things so quickly, but that save for later, add it to cart, but then don't buy because we get dopamine from doing research and putting it in our cart. All along the process, we get dopamine. We get dopamine from research, from putting into our cart, from hitting buy to opening that package. And then like the dopamine trails off and we tend to get disinterested in that thing we bought if we didn't like let it simmer and soak for a little bit and decide if it was something we really wanted. But I think I'm going to start the wants list and think
Yeah.
about like what that looks like. And I'm interested to see the things that come on there, but I also like how you thought about why you wanted that thing. So you were mentioning the robe and you saw it in a movie. And I think taking it a step further and putting on that list around, okay, here's what I want. And here's what like piqued my interest in wanting this.
Yes.
So then you can reevaluate, okay, I wanted it for this reason. And if I don't want it anymore, like, why is that changed? Because like you're removed from that movie you saw it in. You haven't like come
Totally.
across somebody in a luxurious silk robe or anything like that. And yeah. And I think another way that we can really help to reduce impulse spending is by reducing our temptation, unsubscribing or blocking emails, hiding ads on social media,
Yeah.
unfollowing accounts that tempt you to spend. All of those things, it's about being proactive. And if you start that wants list and you start writing down like where that want came from, this can perhaps also inspire things to see like, okay, I tend to find the things I want on social media and maybe the accounts that you see them on. And maybe that inspires you to unfollow an account or look for more of those like minimalist accounts and the things that are the life you want to live versus that constant like pressure to buy things because of external sources.
And I think on the other side of that, I have a client who, when we put in kind of to play, here's the money that you can spend each month, like your fun money, fun fund, however you would like to describe it. When she makes a big purchase that either comes from that fun fund or comes from her savings that are put aside for large purchases, she puts a note beside it. So she bought a new dress for an event and a splurge, if you will, for her, put that note beside it about, I wanted to feel like beautiful. This dress made me feel confident. Like it was really cool to see how we can, like, when we make those purchases, so to almost to replace that guilt that may come up for us, putting in that it's not justifying it because it's not an irresponsible purchase. It just for her helped her with like that transfer from savings to then her credit card to pay this dress off, helped it to have a different energy behind it.
Ooh, I like that. So then maybe taking the wants list a step further and not deleting something when it comes into your life, but maybe just like
Mm,
moving it to a different section to be, okay, I purchased
old
this
wants.
item. Here's why I wanted it. Here's what I wanted it to like do or the joy I wanted to bring into my life. And just reviewing that list and feeling like, yeah, these things I bought and I took the time to save up for them or pause before I bought them and really thinking, did it do what I wanted it to do?
Yeah.
And if it didn't, that can help you kind of reevaluate similar purchases in the future.
Yes. And sharing that gratitude for like if it was a gift from someone,
Yeah, I love that. And one thing that I know Val and I are both really aligned with is creating limits, but not creating full restriction. So thinking about where do impulse purchases fit in your overall spending plan or your budget or whatever it is that you call that.
right?
Where do they fit in? What amount can you give them every pay or every month or every quarter, whatever that looks like? And how can you separate those funds so that you can clearly see them and use them for those things you want? So maybe it's a separate bank account. That's what my husband and I do. We each have a separate account that is for us to spend on whatever we want. But some alternatives are also if you really see it's something, one specific area that you tend to overspend in impulse purchases, how can you create more limits around that so it's easy for you to see, like, am I at budget? Am I going to go over budget? What does this purchase do to my plan for the month or the pay
Hmm.
period? And if it's Amazon, maybe it's an Amazon gift card or a Starbucks gift card. Or if you want to spend $100 on Amazon every pay, go and get $100 Amazon gift card and delete the other credit cards from your Amazon account. And that's what helps you stay within those boundaries, but doesn't fully restrict you. Because if you try and just stop all impulse spending, you're going to rebel against that pretty damn quickly.
Yeah. So having those limits, it's no different than taking out a certain food from your diet, let's say, which I don't love this one, but it gives that idea of if you say no sugar, that's going to be feel really restrictive. And then that's probably going to be what you want to go for when you're going to find food. So if we say no personal spending, like there has to be that space for fun and for those little pieces of joy in your life that you do and like do look forward to. So if it's a coffee, if it's Amazon, if it's whatever your thing is, still leaving space for that in your spending to ensure that we're not saying 100% no, but we're just creating a boundary around it so it's not 100% all the time yes.
Before we started recording, like Val and I were talking about different ways to avoid impulse spending, and one of the stories that she shared was around like finding an alternative. And
Yes.
there's so many alternatives. Think about, what is the thing you want and what feeling do you want it to create in your life? And is there an alternative solution to get that feeling with spending less money?
Yeah. And this comes in perfect timing. We were talking about, I had on my wants list, probably from 2021. I had put on there a new mattress in 2024. And my mattress, there's nothing wrong with it. So I was like, okay, well, I don't need to go and spend 1200 $1,500 on a new mattress. Why did I think I maybe wanted a new mattress? And for me, I was like, okay, I just want to feel more comfort in my bed, like more cozy, more like plush. So what I did instead was got some fresh pillows and I got a foam mattress topper. And instead of spending that $1,500, I spent $200 to $300 and created that feeling that I was looking for at a fraction of the cost because it wasn't a need. I don't need a new mattress, and I'm very appreciative of that. I'm very grateful, but I was able to create that feeling that I was looking for through an alternative. So in those times, it's getting creative. And Sherry, you had a great point to bring up about your kitchen pantry.
Oh, yeah. And like, I have an older kitchen. I have an older home in general. I share about it on social media that it's got lots of imperfections, but there was a repurposed cabinet, kind of a buffet and hutch that we were using as a pantry because we were painting the kitchen and the pantry like literally collapsed around us. So we repurposed this piece of furniture and realized that not only was it a little bit too big for the space and making it difficult to get around, but also the glass on the top of it allowed it to just look very cluttered because you could see everything that was behind it.
Yeah.
And yes, I'd love to redo my kitchen and maybe one day we will, or maybe we won't, but that's a really big ticket item. But taking an afternoon to put this pantry together, I think it was the same, like $200-300. This pantry, it's a smaller footprint, it fits better, it is able to keep everything behind a closed door, and it leveled up how I feel about the kitchen because it made it feel less visually cluttered and less physically cluttered. And it was a small thing. And yes, $200 or $300 isn't like chump change, but when you compare it to the price of a kitchen, it's like there's alternatives that
Yeah.
you can implement in your life to create what you're trying to create that cost a lot less and are on
Yeah.
a lot shorter timelines. So they can get you to that thing you're trying to create in your life faster, which then
Mhm.
could even lead to less like urge to impulse spend on other things because you've changed that space a little bit to the way you want it to be.
Yes. And I think social media is great for us looking outside and being like, oh, but they did it. Like, I want my kitchen to look like that, or I want my space to look like that. And I look at our patio set, which was a marketplace patio set that was blue, and I was like, awesome, perfect. It is not blue, it's brown. It was painted blue, but all good. I'm starting to see that now. But I was sitting there with a friend over the weekend. We were watching the kids play, and like that feeling in years past might have come up up for me, like a bit ashamed about it, because it's not Instagram aesthetic at all. But we were sitting there, we had blankets, we were listening to music, the kids were dancing, playing baseball, and the dads were too, which was awesome. But I was like, this, like now in reflection, it wouldn't matter if we were on $1,200 couches or $50 marketplace chairs. It was the moment, it's being in that moment, and it's not worrying about those things, because then that's robbing you from the moment. Because then my brain could be talking to her and in that conversation, but in that kind of hamster wheel that's going on is, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. Look at these chairs. Look at how the paint's chipping. But I'm like, no, that's not what life is about. And it's a constant process to work on that care that comes up about the wrong things, right?
Yeah, and I love that perspective around, and I think it's interesting. I don't know if neurotypical brains do this, or if because our brains can be thinking of 7 different things at the same time, if it's normal for a neurotypical brain to be sitting there having a conversation on this lawn outdoor patio set that's like could be improved if it was a new one, and we're thinking in the back of our mind, oh, what are they thinking about this? And I really love that, focusing on that time and enjoying and trying to be in the moment even more, because I know when I go over to somebody's house, I don't think this patio furniture is shit. I'm just involved in the conversation and enjoying the time. And we are our
Yes.
own biggest critic when it comes to everything in our life. And I was doing a meditation this morning, and it talked about thinking about these different mantras. And instead of thinking about saying them to yourself, thinking about a loved one, either somebody that's passed or somebody that's currently in your life, and thinking about them saying it to you. And it hits so different, them saying, I want this for you in my head versus me saying, I want this for myself. So we lean on external things so much. And I think we need to just be kinder and gentler to ourselves in life and in our money, and with the expectations we put on ourselves. Like if you wouldn't go over to somebody's house and think, oh yeah, this is crap, they should do this. Like probably the people that you love in your life are not judging you like you're judging yourself.
No, no. And embracing what we have, it's kind of that potentially worn out saying, but being thankful for what we have, right? Right?
Yeah.
Like being grateful for what we have. This house, which I am working on making feel more and more like home. I do not want to be in this house forever, and I know that, but I've spent years looking outside, looking on Realtor, thinking about other things. And then in this year, it's kind of pivoted, and I've gone, how can I make this feel more like home? So painting, the mattress upgrade, right? Maybe like hanging different things that really make it feel like home for me, because right now I am not letting go of our mortgage rate, and it doesn't make sense in our life chapter to move because I don't know where will make the most sense.
Yeah.
So taking, like, you don't have to be in that misery. It's infusing the joy into, okay, what is in my control? What can I do? And of course, having a plan with it, right? Putting that pause in place, not just going, okay, well, I don't like this, so I'm painting it and I'm going to throw all this money at it. Being strategic. I'm not painting our whole house at once. It's room by room, and it might take 2 years, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I think that that kind of reflection and thinking about like how can I make it a little bit better? Yes, maybe I want to make it 100% better. How can I make it 10% better, 20% better? And
Yes.
thinking about, yes, maybe you want to move and maybe in 5 years you will have moved, but focusing more on like the today and the shorter term and like finding joy in today and
Hmm.
this week and this month versus, yeah, I just need to focus on moving. So then you're not spending time thinking about how can I make this space bring me more joy today.
Yes. Yes. One of them I want to share quickly because it came to mind was our washroom. So our main washroom, the basement's been redone, but the main floor, the one room I believe that hasn't been touched was the washroom. And I did not like when people would be like, can I just use your washroom quick?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can. It's functioning and it's clean, but I don't like the way it looks." So my dad and I, when Travis was away, we did a 4-day renovation, mainly my dad, bless him. And it was maybe a $1,500 kind of quick flip, but it was it now makes the room so different. And I love that room now. Like, I genuinely love it. People go in there, and people that, of course, family and friends that saw the before and after are like, oh my gosh, like, it looks so good. And it just feels different. So that was one of those small, like, bigger expenses, but compared to maybe a whole gut, maybe saving us 8 grand, I don't know, somewhere in there, to make it feel more like home.
Yeah, I love it. And I think reining in on impulse spending as an ADHDer is like one of the ways that you're going to be able to have a big impact on your life and feel less guilty, because if you get a credit card bill, you can really beat yourself up. So figuring out how to create those systems to still allow room for impulse spending, or like that hyper focused rabbit hole in a new hobby, allow space for
Yeah.
that in your life, and don't try and fully restrict it, but also make sure that it fits within your overall plan for your life and for your money. And don't let that impulse spending derail you and your goals and the things that you want to achieve and those feelings you want to have in your life. Because if you want a space to feel a certain way and you blow the budget and you spend $8,000 instead of 1,500, then you're going to feel shame in that space and you're going to beat yourself up in a lot of cases. And then that really takes away from the joy of that change you've made, that thing you've purchased. So figuring out how to find that balance and create boundaries, but not create those blocks and restrictions around impulse spending is going to have a big, big impact in your life.
Thanks for listening to Mind and Money with Val and Sherry.
We are excited that you're here, and we hope you got some great tips to help your impulse spending, and we can't wait to see you next time. So be sure to like and subscribe. Have a great day.